is Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks. Use code MMN when you deposit at prizepicks.com to get a match deposit of up to $100. Meaning, if you deposit $100, you will have $200 to play with on prizepicks.com. Check out the fantasy props, the overs and the unders. Coming up momentarily, Pete Overzet is going to have the DraftKings first look and research for you for the week to get started, to get your plans on the go, to go win some of that money. Plus, I do want to let you know that if you go to runthesims.com/Mayo, you'll get a discount on the DFS Optimizer, the single game showdown simulator, and you can run everything, including your own custom projections, up to 10,000 times to see the distribution of floor and ceiling and where those median projections are going to be. I highly recommend it. runthesims.com/Mayo. Enough of me. Let's get to Pete.
All right, Peter Overzet here again, like I am every week as we look forward to the following week's main slate. This week we have the Week 13 slate on DraftKings. We are going to run through all of the salaries, give you my first look opinions on everything here on the Mayo Media Network. As usual, lots of injury situations, lots change as the week progresses, but it's always helpful to kind of get our bearings on a new slate after what had to have been one of the grossest main slates of the year. I was logging the cash lines in some of my tournaments in my spreadsheet, and it was in fact the lowest cash lines in the single entry spy contest that I play of the entire year, even lower scoring than week one when we know so little. So a wild week we're coming off of. Congratulations to everyone who had a nice week 12. I am personally on to week 13. Need to get a bink here in my life. Let's start to lay the foundation. We do have 4 teams on bye this week. We have the Panthers, the Browns, the Packers, and the Titans. Definitely good news for the Panthers. You know, Christian McCaffrey got banged up again with his ankle. He needs to get healthy. The Browns need to fix themselves. Played a pretty gross game last night. Titans need to get healthy. Maybe we get AJ Brown coming back after the bye. We'll have to see. And the Packers as well with Aaron Jones, I think still not 100%. So the bye coming at a nice time for those teams. The teams we don't have on the main slate this week, we have Cowboys Saints playing on Thursday night. We have the Broncos Chiefs playing on Sunday Night Football. So once again, no Chiefs on the main slate. And then the Pats and the Bills playing on Monday Night Football. So no Bills, no Josh Allen, Diggs this week either. We do have 4 p.m. games right now, which I like to see, having some of those late swap options. And the early look at the lines for week 13 don't look particularly juicy to me. I'm seeing 2 games right now projected for an implied total over 50 points. So that's Bucks Falcons and Chargers Bengals. That Chargers Bengals one looks pretty juicy to me, and I'm going to just guess right now as I record this on Monday afternoon that that's going to end up being the popular GPP game of the week. And now let's get into it. I will share my screen here with the salaries. As always, we'll start at quarterback. You know, the dynamic we have here is, you know, some of these rushing quarterbacks at the top, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and I'll even toss Jalen Hurts in there, even though no one is going to want to play Jalen Hurts after what he did yesterday with the 3 interception game, no passing touchdowns, but we've seen it. I mean, we can just go back to 2 weeks ago when he had 30 points. He does still have that ceiling. So I think the field will be deciding between those guys, and then the pocket passers in good spots. So obviously Brady versus Atlanta, that implied team total for the Bucks, you know, points to them scoring a ton of points. Could definitely see things swinging back to Brady's favor after Leonard Fournette hogged most of the Buccaneers touchdowns yesterday. Matt Stafford is going to be in a really good spot at home versus the Jags. And then the quarterbacks in that game that I mentioned is going to be particularly juicy, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. I assume those guys are going to both be fairly popular and project well at 6,700 and 6,300 respectively. The mid-tier for quarterback doesn't look too juicy. We do have the Seahawks playing tonight, so maybe the Seahawks can get it going. But as of now, Russell Wilson has not been very fun to roster after his, 5-week absence on injury, hasn't cleared 10 points. So we'll see how he looks tonight. If he balls out tonight, you could definitely see him being a popular option at 6,400. It's pretty gross down here in the low range. Tua has been playing well, and now at home versus the Giants, I think could be good. But you just see, even when he's playing well, the fantasy points aren't really coming. So not a lot I'm noticing down here cheap. I'll toss out Tyrod Taylor. He could have had a much bigger day yesterday, but 16 points in that matchup is respectable. You can tell how gross yesterday was when I'm, saying a 16-point outing was respectable, but that truly was how it went down yesterday. So quarterback looking pretty thin this week, guessing similar to last week. It's going to be a pay up at quarterback week. And none of these prices are too outrageous. Let's head over to running back, where we do have Jonathan Taylor up at 9,200. Even in kind of a poor game script against the Bucs there, he managed to score 19 points. His salary only comes down $100, but this is a much better matchup here against Houston. And, when I was doing my kind of first pass through all the salaries, I wasn't seeing a ton of value. So it's always kind of, the riddle of how popular a 9,200 Jonathan Taylor will be. We didn't see, players like Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp, who had those 9K plus salaries last week, get rostered too frequently just because of how expensive and how much sticker shock people had with those price tags. So I'm not sure right now, where we'll land on how popular Taylor will be at this price, but he's obviously an incredible play each and every week. Austin Eckler has been completely rock solid and consistent. These past 2 weeks, we saw the spike week in week 11. And then last week against Denver, just a really nice game there where he's still getting these 7 to 8 targets a game and gives him such a high floor. We saw Joe Mixon pop off, for the Bengals, similar to kind of Leonard Fournette hogging all the touchdowns. Mixon really stole the show for the Bengals. I'm guessing the field will want to chase Mixon here. I think I'll probably end up playing it, swinging back to the passing game, but he's going to project well, but just a little pricey now at 8,100. Dalvin Cook I had the news report here. I can read it to you right now. He tore his labrum while dislocating his shoulder yesterday. Sources say it's not season ending, but he's most likely for sure going to miss time and probably won't play this week. So shout out to DraftKings, though, because they are not messing around. They're not giving us a $5,000 Alexander Mattison. They knew what was coming and priced him up at 7,600. So we're going to have to pay full price for Madison, but I think, knowing that he'll have that full bell cow role at 7,600, he's still going to project well and be a popular option. I'm guessing the field is going to be very excited to play Leonard Fournette and Cordero Patterson coming off of their big games. They are going to probably look like better points per dollar plays than the Eckler, Mixon, Najee tier. So that'll be interesting to see if people kind of go mid-tier running back. We'll have to see on DeAndre Swift. He left that game early with a shoulder sprain, and not quite sure if he's going to be good to go or not. Darrell Henderson, he was solid yesterday. His price just always seems to stay here. I mean, getting 15 to 16 carries a game, 4 targets, that's definitely doable at 6,100. And at home versus the Jags is going to be a pretty juicy spot for him. Saquon's kind of a riddle right now. His workload is just kind of in check. He's kind of getting the Devonta Booker workload, which, it's hard to get excited about. 13 carries, 5 targets. It's fine, but he doesn't really have the break the slate, appeal at that kind of usage. So hopefully he's still just getting, work back in, getting more comfortable. And also hopefully it was just a product of that kind of ugly game environment there versus the Eagles. Eli Mitchell looks awesome. There were, concerns that his hand was going to be all wrapped up, that he wasn't going to be able to catch passes. He has 6 targets here and absolutely explodes for 133 yards. So Eli Mitchell proving that the 49ers absolutely love him and that he's more than capable of producing with a large, workload. So like Eli Mitchell there a lot. We're going to have to see if Chase Edmonds is back this week or not. If not, James Conner is going to be pretty popular at 5,900. And, we now have kind of the committee backs down in this range. And this has actually been a range I've been gravitating to in GPPs. Both the, Broncos running backs, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon have been projecting well. Miles Sanders, he stays cheap here. He was actually looking really good before he got injured in the second half of that game. The 9 rush attempts for 64 yards, a nice, 7 yards a carry there. So we'll have to keep tabs on him. The Seattle running back room is really thinned out. Tonight, we don't have Rashad Penny or Travis Homer playing. So it's basically Alex Collins and DJ Dallas. We'll have to see how Alex Collins looks tonight, but he might be too cheap at 5,100. But yeah, not seeing a ton down here. I guess one other guy I should definitely mention is David Montgomery at 5,600. He disappointed people on Thanksgiving, but his workload's still really good. That 17 carries, 3 targets. You could definitely do worse at 5,600 than David Montgomery. So some decent options here at running back. I think, from reviewing all the positions, definitely seems the deepest and the most options for us as far as week 13 is concerned. Let's head over to wide receiver now. Cooper Kupp's price has come down from 9,600 to 9,000. That's slightly more palatable. We did see Odell Beckham get involved yesterday, and he is now running, 100% of the snaps alongside Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. So I'll be curious to see if people are a little scared off of Cooper Kupp in this spot. Expensive, Odell coming on, but it's really hard to find anything bad to say about Cooper Kupp. Deebo Samuel's another guy who obviously has been playing incredibly well, but we are going to have to watch his injury situation. He is going to have an MRI on his groin today. I'm just pulling up the report now, and he is expected to miss a little bit of time. So I doubt we're going to have Deebo Samuel, which is going to make Brandon Ayuk at 5,600 a very, very popular play. And maybe people are willing to go back to George Kittle as well, although we'll talk about tight ends in a second. Definitely have some nice names up at the top end, although no Diggs, no Tyreek Hill, no Devontae Adams, but we do have Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Adam Thielen. I mentioned that Chargers-Bengals game. I think Allen, Chase, T. Higgins, those guys are going to all be solid and popular plays. The Bucks wide receivers, are always going to project well at these price tags. Chris Godwin burned a lot of people, but at 6,700 and 6,600, they're going to be very popular. We'll have to see what the Seahawks do tonight. Metcalf here at 6,700, Lockett at 6,500. If Seattle finally regains their form, these price tags are going to look a little cheap as well. Waddle has been absolutely on fire. His price tag now has come up. He was down here 55, 56, 5,900. Now he's 6,400. He has been absolutely lighting things on fire and now gets another good matchup against the Giants. Definitely think I'll be living in this range for tournaments. Mike Williams continues to disappoint, but this is going to be a good bounce back spot for him. Michael Pittman kind of burned as chalk. T. Higgins coming off a big game. Cooks found the end zone. Claypool showing big play ability, although Big Ben looks pretty awful right now. But this just kind of sweet spot right in here from 5,700 to 6,100 looks pretty good for tournaments just right now at first blush. And wow, it is kind of surprising to see DeAndre Hopkins all the way down here at 6,200. I mean, this is the cheapest he has been all year. Haven't seen DeAndre Hopkins under 7,000 in a long time. So we'll have to see if he finally is back this week. This is one of those situations where it's kind of just hard to know how to handle that at this point in the week. It's the same story every week, trying to find value on this slate for wide receivers. It is just really, really hard. DraftKings has done such a good job with the pricing. I mean, last week we had Visca at 4,400. We had MBS at 4,100. Maybe you took a stab on like a Zach Pascal or a T.Y. Hilton sub 4K, but there just has not been a lot of options underneath 4K this year. So you really have to get creative if you want to do a punt wide receiver. Maybe an Olamide Zacchaeus here with kind of all of the open target availability in the Falcons offense, something like that. Deshaun Jackson scored a touchdown. We know he has that big play ability, but you can see down here, there is not a lot going on in this sub 4K range. Let me see if there's any plays for you I like in the 4K range. Rondale Moore was coming off of an 11 target game last week. Again, we'll have to see what the deal is with Chase Edmonds, with DeAndre Hopkins, but Rondale Moore will probably look pretty decent at 4,700. Crowder, maybe if Zach Wilson can get things going, but he only had one target and kind of burned people last week. So again, I'm telling you, we're looking at these names and it is really gross. It is really thin. I have not been doing a lot of punt wide receivers this year, and it looks like that will continue in week 13. Tight end is interesting because it was kind of a disaster week for the more expensive tight ends in week 12. I mean, all of these guys kind of burning people. Waller got hurt and left the game early, but he only had 5.3 points. Mark Andrews, I guess, was serviceable last night. He did score that touchdown, so maybe he ends up being the most popular of these options. Kittle burned everyone, myself included. I mean, 2 targets, 1 reception. I thought it was such a good spot versus the Vikings for him. So we'll see if people are burned on him. Also feeling burned on Kyle Pitts, 4.6 points. So my just inclination is the field has kind of had enough with these expensive tight ends. And I bet a lot of these guys go overlooked. And tight end is pretty loaded. Gronk coming off a good game. Hawkinson coming off a good game. You know, Gesicki and Goddard are always good bets. Freiermuth sucked out with a touchdown, has played well. We got Logan Thomas coming back tonight. So tight end gives you a ton of options, and this is pretty good for tournaments because a couple of these guys are going to come in incredibly low owned. And my guess is it's the Pitts, it's the Kittle, it's the Wallers that people don't want to pay up for and get burned. I couldn't find a really good cheap tight end for this week as a punt play, at least right now in the week. Cole Kmet at 3,600 looked fine. He was a little bit more involved on Thanksgiving. He did score or didn't score, but had those 11 targets. So nice to see his role growing. I'm guessing he's going to project pretty well here at 3,600. Evan Ingram, you know, without Sterling Shepard, without Kadarius Toney, he did see the 6 targets, but Evan Ingram just has put together a career of underwhelming. So I don't know if there's much there. And yeah, haven't seen a punt play really jump out right now. I did see some people play Ryan Griffin in week 12. He did have 4 targets. So maybe Ryan Griffin is your punt du jour here at 2,600. We will wrap up by taking a quick peek at defense. Thankfully, we don't have a situation like last week where 2 of the best defensive plays, even just from a pure projection standpoint, were the cheapest. You know, everyone played the Texans. I was seeing them up to 40, 50% in small fields. So nice to see that we don't have a situation like that shaping up this week. I'm going to guess that, you know, people will be content using the Lions at home versus Kirk Cousins. I think people will probably be content to use the Jets at home versus Hurts coming off of 3 turnovers. Seattle at home versus Jimmy Garoppolo. So there's some cheap options down here. The Raiders at home versus Heineke. I think that will look good. And then up here on the high end, of course, the Rams at home versus the Jags is going to project very, very well. So looking good at defense here. Always hard to give out defensive takes here on a Monday afternoon. I appreciate you guys watching with us, getting primed for the week, as this is the ultimate forward thinking show here on the Mayo Media Network. As the week progresses, we'll have our projections up over at Run the Sims. If you guys have not checked that out yet, it is the ultimate tool, the ultimate companion for seeing what the math says is the best plays on the slate. I love comparing projected ownership versus the sim results for both showdown and main slate. It's how I got on Cordero Patterson on Sunday. He was the #1 most frequented player in our 10,000 sims on Run the Sim. So you can sign up over there, get 10% off with promo code Pete. It will also get you access to a Run the Sims channel in my Discord, the Deposit Kingdom Discord. So if you have questions about that, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or in Discord. Would love to get you in there. And Pat can also answer any of your questions about Run the Sims as well. Hope you guys all have a wonderful week. Good luck in week 13. Let's win those GPPs.